That's why this power of there is no scope of any tutoring or no counseling, because original, if we allow that, then original source, credibility of original source may get lost. So this is the theory behind it. If you see the decision of the Madras High Court, probably that will solve, that will clarify your doubt, if they have any on this issue. Now, friends, one more statement on oath. Now, there is some sections 130 to 4 which attaches lot of importance if any statement is given on oath. Now, you see in our country that if something is recorded on oath, it has a evidency value. Why it is so much importance is being given to if something is stated on oath? Let us, for the time being, we see and examine the source. Now, you see if we see that why so much sanctity. If we see if we remember our grandfather, we remember our father and great grandfather, those who have fortunate enough, then see the content of lie in their conversation. So this is now you see earlier, I remember that people, the percentage content of lie in their conversation used to be very minimal. In the present scenario, if we see every day right from the morning till evening, either we are bluffing ourselves, we are telling lie, and this has become a fashion to tell lie, to do something. But if you remember your grandfather, your grandmother, what was they were in plain and simple terms they used to say. Their conversation was very plain and simple. There was no hanky panky, no spicy talk, this and that. Sometimes I feel now, one thing yesterday reminded me that even how to say no, there is a management classes. Now we want to live more in artificial world kind of thing. We are losing our natural behavior, natural character. But this, now giving in this background, now this is the act when it was conceived. This, if you see this is the act. One thing. This is the old act 1873. That slide is missing. That Indian Oath Act 1969, and it is the replica of the old act 1873. It was the era when it was thought of that if something is stated on oath, then people will never tell lie. Now, no more situation now exists. At that time, if you remember, Pran jai par vachan na jai means we were having that kind of philosophy. If somebody has uttered a word, it has to be honored at any cost, whether it takes your life also. You see my story in Ramayana that Dasarath died because he gave two vachan to Kaikai. Today it is possible. So this act, legacy of this oath is coming from that era, and even still courts are interpreting if something is stated on oath, then it will have a legal sanctity. So friends, sometimes because it has become in our nature to tell lie, so sometimes before the authority also we speak lie, and sometimes it may result into grave kind of things. So this is the background why so much importance has been attached to if some statement is recorded on oath, because it is we are carrying out that legacy from last 100-200 years ago. Now, what the court verdict on the binding nature of the statement made on oath? If something is stated on oath, that binds the assessee. So this is the decision of the Supreme Court. Now, no doubt, it is not conclusive, it is rebuttable, but that burden of proving that what I have stated earlier on oath, that is not correct, lies on the assessee or deponent who has given that statement on oath. So this is the, if something is being stated on oath, then naturally it will have a it creates the evidency value. Now this sometimes it may be detrimental, sometimes it may be useful also. So not that something is being stated, then always you will invite the miseries. It is not like this. Now one more important thing is in this connection, because if you are stating something on oath, then you get some benefit under the Income Tax Act, and by stating something on oath, you also create some evidence in your favor, as well as department also use that evidence against you, but you can also create some evidence. For example, if you see the necessity, let me explain the necessity. Now if you see assessment proceeding, particularly 115 BBE, penalty proceeding, application for settlement before the settlement commission, then here the condition is that assessee must disclose the manner in which income is earned and he should also substantiate. So sometimes it becomes very difficult how to substantiate, how to create the evidence. So this is also a good weapon in your hand, good tool in your hand. When you state something, suppose during the course of a search, a cash of 1 crore is found. There is no incriminating material has been found during the course of search, which say that this has been created out of this, cash has come from this particular activity. At that time, by stating something, you are also creating the evidence in your favor, that this is how I have earned this 1 crore rupees. So this will help you. Later on you can take the plea before the courts. I have already explained in my statement given on oath, this is my source of income, source of activity from which I have generated that kind of undisclosed cash. So later on you can take the advantage of that situation. As you remember, department also record the statement, preliminary statement, concluding statement, and in between there may be a statement. If there is a consistency in these statements, so court attaches lot of value to all these statements. If nothing incriminating is found against you which contradicts your statement on oath, or then in that case department has to also believe on your version of stating something. Department cannot say this is wrong, because something is given on oath, it is evidence. If it is evidence in the favor of the assessee, in favor of the department also, both are bound by that. So one can create this kind of evidence by stating correct thing at the time of recording the statement. So one can take the advantage of that situation, because later on, because difficult, if suppose cash is 1 crore, cash is found, what evidence you will give? You may say that I have sold something, then they will say where capital gain has been given, or you produce the evidence, you give the name of the party from whom you have collected that money. So all sorts of problem may start. So it is better to use that tool of that giving something on oath by stating with some credibility, state something, then it will give the leverage in your hand, in the assessee hand, to explain in future regarding this, how this income has been earned. Now this surrender, this is also surrender. Why assessee surrenders? First of all, naturally there is inherent advantage also. Sometimes to wrap up the search proceeding, because when you surrender, that the authorities also, they also feel now our job is over, it has been surrendered, so they stop also further action, doing any further things. So practically that surrender does not mean that always this is a bad thing. Surrender also gives you a lot of benefit, because as you know, in the this penalty provision, if you make some disclosure under 132(4), then it has a different consequences when levy of the penalty is concerned. As you know, the penalty is 10% if you make a disclosure under 132(4) and thereafter you disclose same amount in the return of income. And if you have not made a disclosure under 132(4) and first time you make a disclosure in return of income, then it may invite the penalty of 20%. And if neither disclosed in 132(4) nor in the return of income, then it will have a same consequence. It's some 300 penalty, 300% penalty of the this. So these are the some inherent benefits which are associated with the surrender. Now, sometimes people ask me, sir, why they are obtaining the forced confession? Now, with regard to that, there is a board instruction. Board is also seized of the matter, and they say that no confession. The department officers should give more importance to the finding of the facts, to finding of the incriminating material during the course of a survey or search. So there is a, but the what actually means the confession? Confession means self-admission. So because it attaches lot of benefits also. So therefore confession as such is not a bad thing. But confession if not, does not have any material to support that, then naturally higher authority will at a subsequent stage this will be viewed adversely. So confession by as such, I have just explained to you that by making certain confession in a positive manner, you may reduce the consequences of penalty also, you may create the evidences also. So all sorts of the benefits are there. So it should not be viewed adversely. Now sometimes retraction. Now with regard to retraction, if you feel that it has been obtained under forceful condition or under coercion, then naturally you can have a right to retract. But certain parameters which have been laid down by the court, that must be kept in mind. If you plan to retract, then it should be, if it is accompanied by the affidavit of the witness, then it will have a more value. And particularly if the witness, those who are present during the course of such proceeding, if their affidavit is there, so that will have a more credence to your retraction. Otherwise, one of the most important thing is that retraction should be done as early as possible, because belated retraction may not be accepted as a correct retraction, as a valid bona fide retraction, because it must be after thought retraction. Assam High Court, Guwahati High Court, in the I have there is missing. Guwahati High Court, in certain circumstances, have held that this is not made in a due course of time. It is after thought. So they have rejected that this is not a valid retraction. Now there is certain parameters, how the courts have analyzed that retraction matter in a different series of judgment that has been tabulated in this slide. You can go through, and some of the important parameters for making a valid retraction is that if you see that the decision of Hiyalal Maganlal and Company versus Deputy CIT 96 ITD Mumbai, they have held that in certain circumstances retraction is not valid. If there is a coherency in the statement of the assessee, then it will be said that this is the statement is voluntarily without any undue influence, threat or coercion. So these are the some observations which are made by the court in that particular case. So when you are retracting, you see that whether these things are present in your retraction. If they are present in your retraction, so probably you may think that it may not be accepted as a valid retraction by the authorities. Now this is the this Greenview Restaurant versus Assistant CIT 185 CTR Guwahati. That is the decision where the Guwahati High Court has adversely taken that this is the retraction is not valid, it is not a bona fide, it is a tutored retraction. So all you can go through certain by going through certain decisions you can come across how safely you, if you want to retract, then how it can be retracted with the some which will be judicially acceptable in the higher forum. Now surrender, it is a, if you are surrender, I have told you confession, surrender, this gives you a lot of benefit also. But when you plan to surrender, what are the things you should take into account? That cover incriminating material found, creation of the capital, generation of income versus application in assets, set of losses, asset acquired prior to 7 financial year, current year income not recorded, advance tax paid, advance tax not paid, principle of equivalence. These are the consideration you can, these are the points which you can consider while while making the this surrender. Now there is a certain how to make the surrender of undisclosed income. That is also very important, because now if you see the Income Tax Act, what are the important from income tax angle? Assessee is important, assessment year is important, status is important, and the nature of income. If you see the section 14, it talks about classifying the income under 5 heads, plus also it talks about deemed income kind of concept. There is a deemed income also, there is a concept like section 68, 69, 69A, 69B, 69C. So these are the deemed income concept, deed expenditure which are to be treated as income. So these are the various concepts. So assessee is very important. But what happens, because such is made in the case of a family, then family head make the disclosure on behalf of all the assessee, on behalf of all the family members. That is not correct approach, because Income Tax Act recognize assessee. So it is always advisable that either if the person head of the family or any person he is making the joint declaration, joint disclosure on behalf of the other members, then either he should have a letter of authority, or each member signs it, each assessee who is affected party, if he signs, in whose case disclosure is made, if he signs, it would be better, because Income Tax Act recognizes the assessee. There is no concept of group assessment, there is no concept of head making the disclosure on behalf of the other assessees. In one case I have seen that the appellate authority rejected that this is not the valid disclosure, because the disclosure was made by the father in the case of his son, and when the plea was taken we should be given the benefit of section 132(4), the appellate authority rejected it, saying that the assessee himself has not made a disclosure, so he is not entitled to get that benefit. So it is better you should take that precaution while making the disclosure, while making the declaration. That is necessary, because to avoid the any kind of problem on technical ground in future. So this is the important thing. Majority of the time family head make the disclosure on the basis in the name of the ladies, in the name of the sons, then this is not the correct practice. So as far as possible it should be avoided, so that in future, again I will repeat it to because you don't know what will happen. Somebody, if you see the judicial pronouncement, somebody gives the importance to substance, somebody gives the importance to more technicalities, so technical matters, so unnecessary interest of the assessee may suffer. So these things may be kept in mind. Surrender of the undisclosed income to be made in the hands of the person, entities against whom such warrant has been issued. This is also important, that if the search warrant has the name of that person, then only disclosure made under 132(4) is valid. If suppose the person, you are making a disclosure in the case of a person whose name is not there in the warrant, then you will not, one may not get the benefit of section 132(4) and consequently 271(1)(a). And one more important thing, that surrender letter should be given prior to conclusion of search with respect to concerned person entity. If the declaration is made after that, if the conditional declaration is there, you have stated particular figure and thereafter you have supported that, that can be probably done, but as far as the quantum of income is concerned, that should be given prior to conclusion of the search. In one case, it has happened that the assessee made a disclosure of some 50 lakhs and thereafter he revised and made a disclosure of 2 crores after that. So, assessee was given the benefit of only 50 lakhs, not of 2 crores, even if letter was given after the letter was given of surrendering that amount. But since it was made, surrender was made after the conclusion of search, so it was a normal course of surrender. It did not have that qualification of making a disclosure during the course of search, because once search is concluded, whatever you are doing, that is a piece of information, piece of document, whether it may, that will not give a benefit of section 132(4). Now, in case there is a seizure of cash, there is a suggestion that earlier that assessee should state and request to treat the amount of cash seized as payment of advance tax. But this benefit act now has been amended with effect from 1/6/2013, which says that advance tax is not a part of existing liability. So, seized cash cannot be adjusted against the advance tax liability. Though it is a very harsh provision which have been brought in the Act by the Finance Act 2013, but we don't know that in future it may happen, court may interpret this provision in a different manner. It is no doubt it is a draconian measure, because the section is like this. The problem was addressed by making this amendment was that earlier what the assessee used to do, they used to get adjusted this cash seized against the advance tax liability, and thereafter they used to file a return of income and filing the lower return of income and used to get the refund. So, to curb that tendency, now they say that this cash seized will not be adjusted against advance tax liability. So, this is the now amendment has been done. I don't know what will happen subsequently, but the better है कि as far as the tax councils are concerned, better they should write a letter adjusting that cash seized against the advance tax liability. We don't know how in these circumstances in future court will behave. For some time there will be break of
5 minutes.
5 minutes, and we will reassemble after 5 minutes. Welcome after the break. Now, I suggested that when you are surrendering the undisclosed income, what are the precautions to be taken? Now, often I have seen that assessee writing that surrender of undisclosed income is being made to buy peace and to settle the dispute in expeditious manner. Now, this particular phrase is being examined by the Supreme Court in the case of Mac Data Private Limited, and this they commented that this, if the facts justify the levy of the penalty, then this kind of phraseology, this kind of phrases have no meaning, because Income Tax Act does not recognize that you are making a disclosure to buy peace and to settle the dispute. So, I will come later on with this citation, but no doubt, you don't know what will happen in the suppose the Supreme Court decision is reversed, then in that case such kind of line may serve some purpose in future. So it is better to mention this line, but presently Supreme Court decision has not approved this kind of phrases in a particular in a disclosure. Applications of retained assets. Now, if the seized assets can be appropriated against the liability under the Income Tax Act, existing liability under the Income Tax Act, the liability which may be created in consequence of the in consequence to passing of the assessment orders, or third kind of liability may be that assessee may be treated in default. So these are the three kind of liability which can be adjusted against the retained assets. Now one more provision has been introduced with effect from 1/6/2003 with regard to that if the department has seized any explained assets, then normally department should not seize the explained assets, but because sometimes assessee is not in position to give the evidence during the course of a search that these assets are explained, so sometime deliberately or sometime